You are not going to know everything. You're not going to know everything in the Bible. Here is a woman who he describes in 7 verses later as having great faith. She doesn't know the Bible. She knows a little bit. And apparently she knows enough that she needs to know for now. Sometimes we get caught up that, well, I don't know if I can become a Christian yet. I don't know. Here's one. I don't know if I can get baptized yet because I haven't read the whole Bible. You don't have to read the whole Bible. You have to know enough of the Bible to know what you have to do. And this woman apparently does. She has an informed faith. So Jesus moves quickly in between these regions, the text is, and in just a moment, there's like 8 verses. So it's verse 21 through 28. In just 8 verses, he encounters this woman. And in 8 verses, what she does causes him to say, now that's a great woman of faith. 8 verses? Great faith? That is the type of faith that I want to be described as. Oh, that's a great faith there. That's the type of faith that I suspect you want to have. Well, there's a person of great faith. Again, anytime that you have to put forth a little effort, a little extra effort, a lot of people don't like that, right? The path of least resistance. So I want to be described as someone with great faith. And so what she does, what is it that she does in 8 verses? Because that's what I want to demonstrate, because faith is tough. I know we talk about trust and obedience, but, even yesterday was this beautiful, beautiful day. And Anissa calls up Sharon, and Sharon's already been up for like 7 hours by the time we got up, and the kids are out moving around. And she said, what are you all doing? Well, we were sitting on the end of our driveway. And Anissa was like, well, what are you going to do? Well, I got some news yesterday on some things that I'm trying to work through, and it wasn't the best news. And so I was down. And Anissa kept saying, well, what do you want to do today? I said, nothing. Okay, it was this beautiful, beautiful Saturday, and I just wanted to mope around. Just mope around. And I did. For the day I laid on the couch. They went rollerblading and all this place, and I just moped around, feeling sorry for myself. Faith is tough. Having faith when you get bad news or you go through a difficult time is tough. And so what is it that made this woman's faith so great? That's what we need to learn a little bit more of as to what happened in this woman. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you faith's 5 qualities and elements that we see from this woman in this story. 5 qualities. Faith's 5 qualities that you see this woman put on display. And what I want to do is show you that it can help encourage and inspire you when you have a Saturday like I had yesterday. And it doesn't tend to just be, at least for me, isolated. It tends to linger on. All of us, each one of you, as we were going around with the prayer requests, each of us has various troubles and pains and problems and pressures and people that we're struggling with. In fact, there's a lot of things that are troublesome start with P. Payments, people, pain, pressure, all that kind of stuff. But how do you get through that? We had a nice prayer, and I appreciate that. But how do you keep moving past it? And the second thing is there are people, today we're taking this collection for domestic violence. While there are things and troubles that you are going through, that we need to be kind of helping ourselves out, there's a lot of people that are looking at you to be their source of strength. And sometimes we don't always think about ourselves as being the source of strength for somebody else. Sometimes we do, especially when we're feeling high. But just on a daily basis, you don't know how many people are watching you and listening to you. And so for this, we can learn about the faith's 5 qualities so that you can help others be encouraged when they're struggling. So that's what we're going to look at today. The stories of some unnamed woman. Nowhere in either account does anyone ever identify who this woman is. But her faith seems to shine in such a way that for centuries, this story, 8-some verses, has inspired people. I hope that it will inspire you so that you can also go and inspire others. So the background of the lesson is pretty simple. Jesus is becoming famous, and he's getting well known. And so he decides to kind of take a pause for a second because the Jewish folks are also intensifying their condemnation of him and attacking him. So he takes a second and he goes to Tyre and Sidon. And all he wants to do is get like a little rest. He's just looking for a little break. So we see that from the first verse. Riley, go ahead and read the first verse there. 15 verse 21.
The Jews went out from there and departed to the region of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a woman of Canaan.
Yep, there we go. He went to the city. Now, if you look at Mark chapter 7, here's the thing. He's just looking for a little rest, right? So yesterday, I'm looking for a little rest. Denise and the kids are going to go with Sharon and do some rollers. I'm just looking for a little rest. Now, watch what happens, though. Look at Mark chapter 7, right? This is the parallel story. Look at Mark chapter 7. Look at verse 24. See, Mark adds a little bit of extra detail into this. Go ahead, Riley. What's it say? Mark chapter 7, verse 24. Mark chapter 7, verse 24.
From there he arose and went to the region of Tyre and Sidon. And he entered a house and wanted no one to know it, but he could not be hidden.
There it is. Okay, so now notice he's trying to just have some peace and quiet. And maybe this is just like, you see, Jesus is no different than you and I. He's looking for a time to just relax. Just come on, I've been working hard now. I just need a moment. But he's too famous. And he can't be hidden away. People know that he's there. And so, I just want a moment to myself, and the phone rings. I just need a moment to myself, and he says, "Wait, can you do one more thing for me? I just need a moment." And some other person calls and says, "Chris, I got an issue over here. Can you come help?" Mom calls. And you're like, I just need a second. Now, what if Jesus in this case, right, we know how the story ends. What if Jesus in this case would have said, no, listen, I'm off the clock. Now look, for Christians in this world, there are times that we need to be off the clock from work. But Christians doing Christian things are never off the clock. I can be off the clock from work. But as a Christian, see, this faith goes wherever I go. All the time in places that I go. The world needs us to always be on the clock. Jesus, now I'm not off the clock. The world is depending upon us not to be off the clock. Okay, so now here comes this heartbroken woman. Raleigh, go ahead, go back to Matthew now. Let's go back to Matthew. Matthew chapter 15. Let's take a look at verse 22. 22. Go ahead, Raleigh.
And behold, a woman of Canaan came from that region and cried out to him, saying, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, son of David. My daughter is severely demon-possessed." All
right, so a couple things here. She's a Canaanite woman. We get a little bit of detail here from her. So this Canaanite woman, what does that mean? Okay, well, that's significant. It's significant because it's somebody who has a pagan background. In other words, she's not a Christian. She's got a sordid past that's also still kind of in the present. She's got a lot of baggage. She's not a godly woman. She's a Canaanite. She's not a Jewish person, but she's in distress. And she comes up and she needs Jesus. Okay, so here we have today these women and families, these victims of domestic violence. Some of them may be Christians. I suspect maybe some aren't. I suspect perhaps a lot aren't. They've got a sordid past. A past that's still kind of in the present. They come with some baggage. They come with some history. They're not maybe godly in all senses of the word, and they're in distress. See, the same women and the same women today have the same issues. And it's not just women. So they need God in their lives. Now, Jesus happens to be there for this woman. Guess who's there today for these women today? It's us. In fact, we are often called the ambassadors of Christ. Now, what's interesting about ambassadors Ambassadors is the highest ranking official in a foreign land when the president isn't there. That's what an ambassador, we are to be ambassadors of Christ. And listen with it again, in politics today, an ambassador is the highest ranking official in a foreign country when the president isn't there. This world isn't our home. Our home's up there. The president isn't here anymore. He's up there. We are the highest ranking officials in a foreign land. We're Christ's ambassadors. So this woman needs Jesus. All of this world needs us. Now the daughter is demon possessed. That's a different story here today. But you need to know that in the first century, God allowed people to become demon possessed. Well, that's kind of mean. No, it's that if he can allow people to have a demon with them, that people recognize this. And then along comes Jesus and his disciples, and they have the ability to perform a miracle so that everyone sees it. Now all of a sudden the demons are cast out. Oh, wait, who are you again? Who's this Jesus? And all of a sudden it carries a little more weight with them, right? You got a lot of different people saying, oh, I can do this and I can do that. Even today you got people saying this stuff, and which we're like, I don't know, can you really? But here's an example of, I can do this. So now you should trust what I'm saying. Okay, so here this woman comes and she says, I got a demon-possessed daughter. Okay, so now we're going to get into the fives of faith, the faith's five that you see in this story. So the first thing that we see in terms of this story is that this woman has an informed faith. Okay, she's got a heathen background. She's not a Christian, but somehow she's been exposed to some information. She's heard enough to know that this is someone special. Raleigh, go back to verse 21 there. She says in verse 21, Lord, Son of David. Whoa, 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 whoa. She's a pagan. She's not supposed to know all this stuff. Lord, Son of David, that's an Old Testament reference. So what are we supposed to do with that? Well, look, she has an informed faith. The point is simple. As we start learning and growing as Christians, or on our path to heaven, you are not going to know everything. You're not going to know everything in the Bible. Here is a woman who he describes in 7 verses later as having great faith. She doesn't know the Bible. She knows a little bit. And apparently she knows enough that she needs to know for now. Sometimes we get caught up that, well, I don't know if I can become a Christian yet. I don't know. Here's one. I don't know if I can get baptized yet because I haven't read the whole Bible. You don't have to read the whole Bible. You have to know enough of the Bible to know what you have to do. And this woman apparently does. She has an informed faith to a certain degree. The second thing that we see about this woman and her faith, the second thing is that she seems to have a devout faith. So there are 3 times, if you go through those 8 verses in Matthew, you will find the word Lord 3 times. 3 times. Now, Raleigh, at Matthew chapter 15, look at what verse 25 says. What does she do in verse 25?
And she came and worshipped him.
What'd she do?
She
worshiped him. So she seems to not only know this, she seems to have a devoutness that she's willing to come and worship. Now, go back to Mark chapter 7. Look what happens in Mark chapter 7. We add a little bit more to there. Mark chapter 7, look at verse 25. Mark chapter 7, verse 25. What happens there?
For a woman whose young daughter had an unclean spirit heard about him, and she came and fell at his feet.
What'd she do?
She fell at his feet.
So she seems to be not just someone who intellectually gets it, she seems to someone who has a devout spirit and wants it. That's the second thing. She's got a devout faith. Now, look, she believes somehow in Jesus' miraculous power. She's a pagan. I don't know how she found out about this. Maybe she went and she heard the news. Maybe she, as Jesus was traveling, she was in one of the crowds watching. But here is somebody who's not a Christian, not a disciple of Jesus is quite in the full sense. But she knows enough and has seen enough that she knows where she should be. Now, wait a minute. We are the ambassadors of Christ. You've got to be careful how you live, because you don't know how much influence you carry. By the way, it's a lot. You don't know who's looking. You don't know who's watching. You don't know who's listening. There's more people listening and watching than what you think. You do. You take note. You're on Facebook looking and go, they put, You do that. People do that for you too. You have a tremendous amount of influence. And because Jesus does what he does, and he talks how he talks, and he walks how he walks, this woman says, I need to go see him. So the first thing is that she is an informed faith. The second thing is that it's a little bit more than just informed, it's devout. The third thing, now, this is where we tend to lose people in the story. What's about to happen next? People usually, much like the fig tree story we talked about last week, people usually say, look how mean, uncaring, harsh, and ruthless Jesus is. Watch what is about to happen. Romney, go ahead and let's read let's go verse 22. This is back in Matthew, verse 22 and 23.
And behold, the woman of Canaan came from that region and cried out, saying, have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David. My daughter is severely demon-possessed. But he answered her not a word. And his disciples came and urged him, saying,
All right, right there, wait a second. He said, she comes to him and he talks. And what's he say to her?
nothing.
What? No, but what did he say to her?
A word.
What did he say?
A word.
He didn't say anything to her. Not even a word. Well, what are we talking about here? Why would he not do that? This is a story of faith. And what's funny is all throughout your life, as in this woman's 8 verses, God puts these little faith-building barriers all throughout your life. And it's really a challenge for you. Because what did I say this morning? When you have to put a little effort into something, that's when you start to see, you really want this, don't you? A lot of folks just get up, go to church, go home, go throughout the rest of their week. It's just a step. It's just a check. It's just a motion. But when you have to put a little effort into it, wait a minute. That goes beyond the norm. See, God's going to put all these little challenges in your life. And the question is, so what are you going to do with that? Look, faith, we want faith to be easy and immediate. We treat God a lot of times like Santa Claus. We want it to be easy and immediate. But faith is really about getting tested and tried. That's really what faith is. That's the example all throughout the Bible. So here he comes, and he doesn't even say a word. Well, so wait a minute. I don't get it. So where's God? She comes there, and we already said that she's informed, and she seems to be devout, and she goes, I need something now. And it's like, well, where are you, God? What are you doing? Let's go. It's time. Now is when I need you. Not a word. So while she has an informed faith, while she has a devout faith, what I'm going to show you now is the third element of her faith, and that is a persistent faith. A persistent faith. Raleigh, actually, Liam, what scripture did you read? Matthew chapter 7, right? Go back to Matthew chapter 7, Liam. Matthew chapter 7. And look at verse 7. So Matthew chapter 7, look at verse 7. Now, she has an informed faith. She has a devout faith. She's got a persistent faith. And why does she need a persistent faith, Liam? What's it say? Matthew chapter 7, verse 7.
Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be opened to you.
See, this lady understands that she has got to be persistent. Notice it doesn't say knock once, ask once, seek once. The words are written ask, seek, knock. They are in the perfect tense, which means they're continuous. It means you keep doing it, which means that your faith isn't easy and it's not immediate. Instead, it's going to be tested and tried. But you got to keep asking. So here she comes and she says, I need some help. My girl's demon possessed. I mean, what more do you need? This little one's demon possessed. I need some help. Show mercy on me. He didn't even say anything. But it would be a mistake. Correct me if I'm wrong. It would be a mistake if she took Jesus' silence for the moment to mean that he doesn't care. Would you agree? All right, Raleigh, read verse 24 from Matthew 15.
But he answered and said, I was not sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
All right, so now he doesn't say a word. Imagine the scene. Now he's there with his disciples, and you can imagine, he didn't say a word. It specifically says doesn't say a word, and so you can kind of see him almost turning away and talking to his disciples. Now she's still there. She can still hear it. And he's like, listen, my mission is to come and save the house of Israel. Okay. In other words, she hears that she's not an Israelite. She's a Canaanite. It ain't for you. I'm here for you. My mission right now is for the house of Israel, the Jewish people. If you recall in the Bible later on, it says salvation is to the Jews first and then the Gentiles. Okay? When does salvation come to the Gentiles? You and I? It's in the book of Acts. It's in that story of Cornelius. That's in Acts chapter 10 and 11. That's when we kind of come in and get the offer of salvation. But before that, it's for the Jewish people first. Sometimes we like to think that there's Christians and the Jewish people. The first Christians were Jews. The first Christians were Jewish people. So he's there and he's like, I'm here to save the Jewish people. So she hears that. Now, what kind of relevance is that for me? Well, let's see. She has an informed faith, right? I bet you she knows enough to know I'm not a Christian. I'm not a Christian yet. I mean, I know of him. I know that he's a pretty special guy, but I'm not a Christian yet. How many folks do you know who know of Jesus, know of the church stuff, know that you're church folk, but they know that they don't have that relationship with him? And so just like this woman, she might be saying to herself, I need some help, and I'm not a Christian. I'm not a Christian. But here's the thing. Instead of her saying, I don't go to church, I'm not a Christian, she keeps coming. She's more persistent, right? Okay, so Raleigh, read verse 26 and 27.
But he answered and said, it is not good to take the children's bread and throw it in the little dog.
To the little dogs. Now, your Bible might even say dogs, but if you go to Mark, it says little dogs. Basically, here's the deal. He's in this house, right? And she's still persistent. Come on, please help me. And he says, listen, I got some things to do first. Let the children be filled first. Actually, if you go to the book of Mark, it actually uses the word first. It doesn't necessarily use it in Matthew. Let the children first be filled. And then he goes, it's not proper to take the children's bread and then throw it to the little dogs. In other words, the pets. There's little pets around. They had pets back then. In other words, God's time is not her time. Got to wait again. That faith is just not easy. It's not immediate. Sometimes you look at the world and you see some big things going on. Like you mentioned this woman that was in an accident, her husband's passed. Devin mentioned some serious things happening in his neighborhood. There's the whole Ukraine stuff. Okay? I mean, there's some big problems in the world. And then there's our little problems. Some of our insignificant stuff. And we say, I don't know. I mean, could this really, am I really on his radar? I mean, there's other bigger things out there. Okay, so maybe, perhaps, there are things that he has to do first. But see, here's the interesting thing. She must have picked up on the word first. Because look what she says next, Raleigh. Go ahead and read Matthew 27, verse 27.
And she said, "Yes, Lord, yet even the little dogs eat the crumbs which fall from her mouth."
Man, this woman is persistent. Her faith it's informed, it's devout, and it's persistent. Didn't get a word? That's okay. I'm not a Christian? That's okay. There's other things more important? That's okay. I'll take a little scrap from the table. I mean, she's holding on like a tick. She's persistent. Fourth thing, her faith is quite selfless. In verse 22, she says, have mercy on who, Raleigh? What's verse 22 say? Have mercy on who?
Have mercy on my demon-possessed daughter.
On my demon-possessed. Now, your Bible might even say, have mercy on me. But really, her request was for her daughter, right? When you pray, when you ask God for things, when you seek, when you knock, you know, we don't want to treat him like Santa Claus. Okay? Now, can you ask for things? Absolutely. But notice a couple things here. Number one, your prayer to grow stronger and closer for God, it is for you. Like she said, have mercy on me, but it's for your circle of influence so that you can help grow his kingdom. When you ask for things for yourself, give me health, give me strength, give me wisdom, it is for you. But it's really beyond, it's the next step. Give me wisdom so I can say the right things to the right people. Give me strength so I can be with these people. Give me patience so I don't kill these people. Okay? It's all, you know, I ain't saying that. Okay, but anyhow, you get what I'm saying. When you ask God for things, you ask him because it's not just for you, it's for just beyond you. And watch this, even if it is a selfish request, when you then say, but not my will be done, if this coincides with yours, then let it be done. That's still selfless. She's got a selfless faith. So when you ask God for things, be careful what you ask for. Make sure that you're asking for the greater good for the other people, even if it is for your own good. And at the very least, ask that it be in God's will and that it be good with him. The fifth thing from this story is that she has an active faith. An active faith. Whatever she knew about God, she knew enough to know that faith is trust and obedience. It's faith in action. Too many folks today think that faith is simply belief. Faith is simply a feeling. That's not what she understood. She sought him, pursued him, worshiped him, pled with him, reasoned with him, and then got him to say, now that's some faith. Nowhere in the New Testament, not one place in the New Testament can you find somebody who is blessed without first showing faith in action. Raleigh, get me James chapter 2 as we bring this to a close. James chapter 2. We'll sit here for just a second. Larry was taking us through the book of James. James is a great book on practical Christian living. It's not all theoretical, it's practical. James chapter 2, look at verse 18, Raleigh. James chapter 2, look at verse 18.
But someone will say, you have faith, and I have works. Show me your faith without your works, and I will show you my faith by my works.
Your faith has got to be persistent. Your faith has got to stick. Your faith has got to have some action. All throughout this 8 verses, Jesus puts in little faith-building barriers to see, so you gonna stick with this? She does. How sad would it have been if she would have heard a little bit about this Jesus guy, but then said, well, you know, I'm just a pagan woman. I'm not super godly. I probably won't receive any blessing. I'm sure there's other things that are bigger and more important for him to do. I don't think I'm going to seek him out. I don't think I'm going to knock on the door of this house. I don't think I'm going to ask anything. And if she wouldn't have done any of that stuff, Raleigh, take a look at the book of James, chapter 4, verse 2. Look what would have happened if she wouldn't have seeked, knocked, and asked. James chapter 4, verse 2, what's it say, Raleigh?
You lust and do not have. You murder and covet and cannot obtain. You fight and war, yet you do not have because you do not ask. She wouldn't have had because she never would have asked. And even when she did ask, and she got a moment of silence, she stuck with it. It's 8 verses. And in 8 verses, great faith is demonstrated because she shows faith's 5 qualities. It's informed somewhat. It's devout. She's worshiping. It's persistent. It's selfless. And it's active. Coming here today is a sign of all those things. What we're about to do this afternoon, a sign of all those things. Remember, this faith-building moment isn't just for you. I hope the story inspires you. It's inspired a lot of people. But I hope that you can use this story because you're going to encounter some folks that are struggling with their faith. I know you might be one of them, but there's others that are struggling as well. And they're going to want to give up, and they're going to want to mope around on a Saturday that's beautiful, and they're going to miss out on time going with their family. They're going to miss out being outside, miss out doing a lot of things because they just want to go and mope around. And that's when you need to say, hey, listen, let me tell you about a story of great faith from someone who could have said, no, not me, not going to do it, don't worry about it, probably not worth my time. But instead, showed great faith. If that's you here today, and you believe that it's time, you may not know all the Bible, but you know enough of the Bible. Is that a pool? Is there water? We can take care of baptism if you need right now today, while we stand and sing the song of invitation.